Good morning, everyone. I think this is going to be the last one I do for a while. I've been doing a lot of these. Got to splice them all together into something for y'all, I guess. Just wait up a little bit. Got some readings and things in tow prepared. Might do some bibliomancy. We'll see how we're feeling. Jesus Christ, that's a pretty face. Trying to find someone that could save if they don't put me away. It'll be a miracle. You believe you're missing out. Everything good is happening somewhere else. And nobody's in your bed. That's hard to get through. And I will die all alone. When I arrive, won't know anyone. I used to play this song all the time. But I don't remember it anymore. I remember that part. Trying to get back into playing music and stuff. But I got some readings here that I pulled out. I was down in my basement. We got a bunch of books. My dad's got a bunch of books from when his high school was liquidating its library. He tried to save some. So this is just one of these random poetry collections, but I found a few in there. I figured I'd start with this one called October Elegy by Margaret Gibson. Considering it's October, it feels very fitting. Precisely down invisible threads these oak leaves fall, leaf by leaf, in low afternoon light. They spindle and settle, the woods open. Birds no longer slide by without my noticing loneliness in the bold stare of the night sky, a sphere tight as an onion. At night, I wake to a cry like the tearing of silk. I listen and listen. There is only an owl. Again, owl. A dog barks. A clock persists. Its parody of single-mindedness, heroic. Then, mornings, they begin in mists that lift towards noon. But first, as if you've dreamed them in a deep breath inward, the trees come shyly forward like ribs. Then the doves, their breasts the color of hewn cedar, call and vanish. No one. You, beautiful one, just beyond grasp. Slide your fingers along my arms as gently as you slide down oak and beech and shagbark, loosening the leaves. Who's attached to you? No one. Who could be? In ordinary commotions of grief and joy, you're elusive, a radiance that flashes so strangely different each time, or so seldom. We say of you, once in a lifetime, remembering perhaps a fragment of fire in salt marsh light when river crossed into the sound, or the blow of light that glanced between mother and father nakedly once, just once, laying the fire. Remember how I whistled myself entirely, and no one would say this. You may as well laugh in delight, cut loose, interpret in a moment, surrender your heart. I watch the oak leaves fall. Surely, by the time I'm old, I'll be ready. Surely, by then, I'll have gathered loose moments, and then go, no longer dreaming on the stair, sun hazy. Surely, not the old woman who thinks that by 90 she'll wake once, if a split second only, and live. No one, if I were able to forget you or find you, I might learn to enter the cup I am washing, door I am closing, word I am opening with careful incision, lover or child embracing, and fall towards the moment fire cracks from common stones, a sunrise, an evening. And got two more here. So we got Robert Lowell for the Union Dead. The old South Boston Aquarium stands in a Sahara of snow now. Its broken windows are boarded. The bronze weather vane cod has lost half its scales. The airy tanks are dry. Once my nose crawled like a snail on the glass. My hand tingled to burst the bubbles, drifting from the noses of the cowed, compliant fish. My hand draws back. I often stay still for the dark, downward, and vegetating kingdom of the fish and reptile. One morning last March, I pressed against the new barbed and galvanized fence on the Boston Common. Behind their cage, yellow dinosaur steam shovels were grunting as they cropped up tons of mush and grass to gouge their underworld garage. Parking spaces luxuriate like civic sand piles in the heart of Boston. A girdle of orange, Puritan pumpkin colored girders braces the tingling state house. Shaking over the excavations as it faces Colonel Shaw and his bell cheeked Negro infantry on St. Gaudens shaking Civil War relief, propped by a plank splint against the garage's earthquake. 2 months after marching through Boston, half the regiment was dead. At the dedication, William James could almost hear the bronze Negroes breathe. Their monument sticks like a fishbone in the city's throat. Its colonel is as lean as a compass needle. He has an angry wren-like vigilance, a greyhound's gentle tautness. He seems to wince at pleasure and suffocate for privacy. He is out of bounds now. He rejoices in man's lovely, peculiar power to choose life and death. When he leads his black soldiers to death, he cannot bend his back. On 1,000 small town New England greens, the old white churches hold their air of sparse, sincere rebellion. Frayed flags quilt the graveyards of the Grand Army of the Republic. The stone statues of the abstract Union soldier grow slimmer and younger each year. Wasp-waisted, they doze over muskets and muse through their sideburns. Shaw's father wanted no monument except the ditch, where his son's body was thrown and lost with his. Word. The ditch is nearer. There are no statues for the last war here on Boylston Street. A commercial photograph shows Hiroshima boiling over a Mosler safe, the rock of ages that survived the blast. Space is nearer. When I crouch to my television set, the drained faces of Negro schoolchildren rise like balloons. Colonel Shaw is riding on his bubble. He waits for the blessed break. The aquarium is gone. Everywhere, giant finned cars nose forward like fish. A savage servility slides by on grease. And one more. Maybe a few more. This is Alan Tate, Aeneas at Washington. I myself saw furious with blood Neoptolemus at his side with the black Atridae, Hecuba, and the 100 daughters Priam cut down, his filth drenching the holy fires. In that extremity I bore me well, a true gentleman, valorous in arms, disinterested and honorable, then fled. That was a time when civilization, run by the few, fell to the many, crashed to the shout of men, the clang of arms. Cold victualling I seized, I hoisted up, the old man, my father, upon my back, in the smoke made by sea for a new world, saving little, a mind imperishable. If time is, a love of past things tenuous, as the hesitation of receding love. To the reduction of the uncitied literals, we brought chiefly the vigor of prophecy, our hunger breeding calculation and fixed triumphs. The thirsty dove I saw in the glowing fields of Troy, hemp ripening and tawny corn, the thickening blue grass, all lying rich forever in the green sun. I saw all things apart, the towers that men contrive, I too contrived long, long ago. Now I demand little. The singular passion abides its object and consumes desire in the circling shadow of its appetite. There was a time when the young eyes were slow, their flame steady beyond the firstling fire. I stood in the rain, far from home, at nightfall, by the Potomac. The great dome lit the water. The city my blood had built I knew no more. while the screech owl whistled his new delight, consecutively dark. Stuck in the wet mire, 4,000 leagues from the ninth buried city, I thought of Troy, what we had built her for. Now, one more. Edwin Markham. This one's real short. Edward Markham, the third wonder. I like this one a lot. It's very Blakey, it's like epigraph form. Two things, said Kant, fill me with breathless awe: the starry heavens and the moral law. I know a thing more awful and obscure: the long, long patience of the plundered poor. Well, those I had on hand, but can do some more stuff if need be. This one's only going to be about an hour long, so we'll have it on. We'll do the debate. What's truth? Is Christ the truth? Yes or no? They say that's what they say in that's what they say in the Bible, right? Yes or no questions we ask here. Should be yay or nay. Yes or no. White licorice, you're up. Good morning, white licorice. What you got for me?
Oh, hey. I didn't hear your last space. No, I don't have much for you. I just think you're a great poster. That's all I'm saying.
Well, thank you, man. I appreciate that.
That's all I have to say, really. I
All
don't
right.
know. What do you want to talk about?
I don't know. I'm a public service for whoever shows up here, aren't I? I already did what I want to do. Christ is the truth. Let's debate it. How do you feel about that? Is Christ Lord? Is Christ Lord over all creation? Is Jesus Christ the way, the truth, and the life? Yay or
Uh,
nay?
yay,
Amen.
yay, as in Kanye.
Yeah, yay or nay. We're on side yay. Cool. So we're on the same team. We're all good then.
Yeah, no. Wait. So who were you just reading just now?
I was reading a few poems. These are like more contemporary American poetry, spanning from the 50s, 60s, 80s. Some of those.
Okay, that's a little less contemporary than I was thinking when you said contemporary.
I mean, I consider everything contemporary, but this is just what this is like. It's called. It's a this collection that my father saved from the public school liquidation.
Cool. Oh, good. That's cool. Yeah. Do you know this poet Ariana Rines? She's like,
No, I don't. I don't know a lot of poets. I know like the great poets, but I don't know a lot of the minor poets.
yeah. I don't know the uh major poets at all. No, she's more contemporary, but she's really whatever. But yeah, that was good stuff that you were spitting out there.
Well, thanks, man. So I appreciate you coming on. I'm gonna
Yeah,
move
thank
on.
you.
See if.
I don't have nothing to say. Yeah.
Thanks, man. All right. All right. Eric Hammerbacher. Good morning. What would you like from me as a service? Eric Hammerbacher. Okay, Eric Hammerbacher.
Oh yeah, I haven't been in these spaces too much. I had to figure out how to turn my mic off.
Oh, got you,
Yeah,
got you. What's
yeah.
up, man?
No, I admired like your posts over the years and just saw you were in this room, so I just hopped in and this was the topic. So I
All
figured,
right,
yeah,
thank you.
yeah.
All right, is Christ the way, the truth, and the life? Yay or nay?
I think so. You know,
Amen, brother.
yeah,
Thanks for coming
yeah,
on.
sure.
All right. All right, I just flip to a random page. The bibliomancy is always a useful thing, especially in collections like this. I highly recommend it. It's many occasions throughout history, people have gone to a book to flip to a random page and found a great inspiration there. It's something I do all of the time. That's where, actually, I believe if you've listened to Chop Suey, I think the System of a Down song when he goes into Father, into Thy hands I commend Thy spirit. They didn't have a lyric for that part. And he just flipped to a random page in the Bible and put his finger down. It was right there. And what else could it be? What else could it be? I'll get to more people, but I just found this poem that I got to read now. I'm inspired to do so. So this is David Wagner. It's called The Shooting of John Dillinger outside the Biograph Theater, July 22nd, 1934. Chicago ran a fever of 101 that groggy Sunday. A reporter fried an egg on a sidewalk. The air looked shaky. And 100,000 people were in the lake, like shirts in a laundry. Why was Johnny so lonely? Not because 24 solid citizens, heat-struck, had keeled over backwards. Not because those lawful souls had fallen out of their sockets and melted. But because the sun went down like a lamp in a furnace or a bull in the stockyards. Where was Johnny headed? Under the Biograph Theater sign that said, Our air is refrigerated, past 17 FBI men and 4 policemen who stood in doorways and sweated. Johnny sat down in a cold seat to watch Clark Gable get electrocuted. Had Johnny been mistreated? Yes, Gable told the DA he'd rather fry than be shut up forever. 2 women sat by Johnny. One looked sweet. One looked like J. Edgar Hoover. Polly Hamilton made him feel hot, but Anna Sage made him shiver. Was Johnny a good lover? Yes, but he passed out his share of squeezes and pokes like a jittery masher, while Agent Purvis sneaked up and down the aisles like an extra usher. Make sure they wouldn't slip out till the show was over. Was Johnny a 4-flusher? No, not if he knew the game. He got it up or got it back, but he liked to take snapshots at policemen with his own Kodak, and once in a while he liked to take them with an automatic. Why was Johnny frantic? Because he couldn't take a walk or sit down in a movie without being afraid he'd run smack into somebody who'd point at his rearranged face and holler, Johnny! Was Johnny ugly? Yes, because Dr. Willem Looser gave him a new profile with a baggy jawline and squint eyes and an erased dimple, with kangaroo tendon cheekbones and a gigolo's mustache that should have been illegal. Did Johnny love a girl? Yes, a good-looking, hard-headed Indian named Billy Frechette. He wanted to marry her and lie down and try to get over it, and she was locked in jail for giving him first aid and comfort. Did Johnny feel hurt? He felt like breaking a bank or jumping over a railing into some panicky teller's cage to shout, reach for the ceiling! Or like kicking some vice president in the bum cheeks and smiling. What was he really doing? Going up the aisle with the crowd and into the lobby with Polly saying, would you do what Clark done? And Johnny saying, maybe. And Anna saying, if he'd been smart, he'd have acted like Bing Crosby. Did Johnny look flashy? Yes, his white-on-white shirt and tie were luminous. His trousers were creased like knives to the tops of his shoes, and his yellow straw hat came down to his dark glasses. Was Johnny suspicious? Yes, and when Agent Purvis signaled with a trembling cigar, Johnny ducked, left, and ran out of the theater, and innocent Polly and squealing Anna were left nowhere. Was Johnny a fast runner? No, but he crouched and scurried past a friendly liquor store, under the couple arms of double daters, under awnings, under stars, to the curb at the mouth of an alley. He hunched there. Was Johnny a thinker? No, but he was thinking more or less of Billy Frechette, who was lost in prison for longer than he could possibly wait, and then it was suddenly too hard to think around a bullet. Did anyone shoot straight? Yes, but Mrs. Etta Natalski fell out from under her picture hat. There, Paulus sprawled on the sidewalk, clutching her left foot, and both of them groaned loud and long under the streetlight. Did Johnny like that? No, but he lay down with those strange women, his face in the alley, one shoe off, cinders in his mouth, his eyelids heavy. When they shouted questions at him, he talked back to nobody. Did Johnny lie easy? Yes, holding his gun and holding his breath as a last trick, he waited. But when the agents came close, his breath couldn't work. Clark Gable walked his last mile. Johnny ran half a block. Did he run out of luck? Yes, before he was cool, they had him spread out on dished-in marble in the Cook County morgue, surrounded by babbling people, with the crime reporter presiding over the head of the table. Did Johnny have a soul? Yes, and it was climbing his slippery windpipe like a trapped burglar, as beating the inside of his ribcage, hollering, let me get out of here. Maybe it got out, maybe it just stayed there. Was Johnny a moneymaker? Yes, and thousands paid him 25 cents to see him, mostly women, and one said, I wouldn't have come except he's a moral lesson. Another, I'm disappointed. He feels like a dead man. Did Johnny have a brain? Yes, and it always worked best. Through the worst of dangers, through flat-footed hammerlocks, through guarded doors, around corners, but it got taken out in the morgue and sold to some doctors. Could Johnny take orders? No, but he stayed in the wicker basket carried by 6 men through the bulging crowd to the hearse and let himself be locked in, and he stayed put as it went driving south in a driving rain. And he didn't get stolen? No, not even after his old hard-nosed dad refused to sell the quick-drawn corpse for $10,000 to somebody in a carnival. He'd figured he'd let Johnny decide how to get to hell. Did anyone wish him well? Yes, half of Indiana camped in the family pasture, and the minister said with luck he could have been a minister. And up the sleeve of his oversized gray suit, Johnny twitched a finger. Does anybody remember? Everyone's still alive and some dead ones. It was a new kind of holiday. With hot and cold drinks and hot and cold tears, they planted him in a cemetery with 3 unknown vice presidents, Benjamin Harrison and James Whitcomb Riley, who never held up anybody. That's American poetry, my friends. And Neil MC, you're up, my friend. What you got for me, Neil?
I'm just curious as to how you selected those readings, to be honest. It was notable that they came from a certain period in time, and a lot of them had descriptions of people of color from the perspective of some Caucasian observer. So I'm just wondering if
I'm
anything
taking them
from that.
Do you want me to read? Do you want me to tell you what edition of this book is? What I did is quite simple. I picked up this book, I flipped to it, I read poems, and I just checked off a few of them that I liked. I picked them fairly randomly. And that one I just happened to flip to. And I said, this is a good poem from the first line.
Do you recognize
that
commonality that they all seem to describe people of color from the perspective of a white person?
Is John Dillinger? Well, I mean, they're white people, so I'm describing everything from, as you would say, a perspective of a white person.
I'm speaking about the authors.
Isn't that trivial?
No, I'm speaking about
Isn't that trivial?
The authors.
How can you write from someone else's perspective?
What I'm saying is each of them.
I can't write from your perspective.
No, I'm not.
I can create a homunculus of you. I write from that perspective.
You're missing my point. What I'm saying is that the authors of these texts, all in those specific texts, for example, the one about the shooting of John Dillinger talks about his Indian boo. And the one about the Union soldiers through Boston references the Negro units from the perspective of a white observer. And I'm just wondering if you recognize that commonality. That's all. Not that you...
No, that's not why I chose them. But that's fairly common in American poetry, one would imagine, right? Considering there's a lot of people of color and there's a lot of white people, a lot of them writing about those people that they share a country with from their perspective, wouldn't you say? Something you can't help but run into.
Yeah, I guess that's a fair point. It's just weird for me to see them all clustered together like that, and I was wondering if that was a theme of.
I think it's more interesting that that's the commonality you picked up upon, because that's not the commonality I picked up upon. But there's commonalities through all poems, right? All poems you can take a random array, as I just have done here, and there will be commonalities in all of them.
Yeah, that was just the one that I saw.
There's also owls. Owls are in a couple of those. There's also Empire is in all of those.
Yeah, for real.
That's poetry.
I missed the owls.
It's the commons.
I got the Empire, but it was the Caucasian gaze that struck me most about, like,
what is the Caucasian gaze? I apparently have this thing. Is this a thing you learned about somewhere and you find useful? What does it teach you? I think it's trivial.
For me, it's a useful analytic device to identify the ground from which you stand and the perspective that gives you, a lens, if you like. On
do you think that they didn't know that they were Caucasian? And do you think that they weren't aware of that when they wrote it? Do you think that they weren't aware that they were writing from their own perspective?
Isn't
that trivial?
Not necessarily. It depends on how reflective and reflexive they were about that in the conduct of their art.
How guilty they were for the fact of their whiteness, how guilty they felt, how self-aware, how
Now
much did they
you're,
not say it explicitly enough?
I can't answer for them. What I'm saying is that the degree to which it is trivial depends upon the extent that the author reflected on it in good faith.
I don't think that's what it depends upon. I think it's trivial because it's like saying A equals A, right? You're saying that these people who are Caucasians and writing on the subject of their countrymen, their fellow citizens, which includes people of color, as you might say, and these people are involved in that history just as much as we are, right? And it's formed a kind of fundamental issue or a problem in the American polity. We've had discourse around this. We've had wars over this. We've had endless controversy over this. And you don't think that they are going to write about this and are aware that they're writing about it from the perspective of themselves, who are in whatever standing they happen to be in?
The unacknowledged position, the unexamined life is kind of not worth living in the
I think, isn't
unacknowledged
poetry
point of
the
view.
examination? Aren't they examining those very lives?
They're examining the lives of others kind of as objects of their art rather than
Yeah, that's what we all do.
actors.
That's what art is. That's what art is. That's what art is. And they're talking about people who are dead, a lot of them, right? So what are they? Do we have to act? The dead are agents in our imaginations. Where do you want them to be agents? You want them agents in what? The moral law? You want to summon the daughters of memory here? You want to summon the daughters of memory, thou analytic, and bind poetry in your shackles of this Caucasian gaze analysis? This is what you would like to do to the free spirit, my friend? Is Christ the truth? Answer me yes or no.
You're putting a load of things in my I didn't say. What I said
Is
was
Christ
I
the truth?
noticed.
Yes or no? We're going to cut to the marrow here, sir. Is Christ
Oh,
the
you
truth?
want to
Yes
get
or
into
no?
that one? We can do that as well.
Yes or no
in
question.
terms,
Do you hear how he wastes our time, everyone? The analytic wants to waste our time. Christ, the truth, yes or no?
I am the way, the truth, and the light. All that business.
Yes or no?
Maybe
Goodbye,
is
sir.
the
We're not
answer.
wasting our time with you.
Oh, thanks then. Bye.
All right, D.
Hello.
Howdy.
Hey there, Largo. How you doing?
Doing great. Chilly. Good morning.
Okay, cool. I just came in real quick to ask a question about like one of your older posts, but it was like something along the lines of like LARPing. Like you have to sort of LARP as if you're a great artist in order to make great art. I just wanted to know what were your further thoughts on that.
Yeah. I mean, I think that you have to make a fool of yourself, which means this is what it actually means to carry your pride, right? Because you put it out there, and all you're going to do is get humiliated, right? That's the whole point. That's how you actually get better. So the whole point is to like you have to believe in yourself. If you don't have it, like for instance, a lot of people, right? They see a Christian or something and they go, "Wow, I wish I could have that kind of faith or something," right? But they don't want to. So they like you have to first want to be something that you are not, right? Because you're always in the process of becoming. So you have to be aimed at something. You have to be attempting to become something else than other than what you are. That's the human condition.
Yeah, that's perfect. Thanks. That's perfect.
Anytime, man. All right, we'll go on to the next one then.
Mm-hmm.
Go, Lord. Go, Lod, you're up. I thought that was pretty fun. We had the analytic. He diagnosed himself with analytics.
Hello.
Howdy.
Oh,
Maybe what I would say, I just wanted to do a little riff on Hegel, right? The evil eye sees evil in all things. Well, the the Caucasian gaze sees the Caucasian gaze in all things.
oh Lord. Am I on, Logo? Good Lord.
Yeah,
Oh
you're
God,
on.
I'm
What's up,
so
my friend?
sorry. Well, I just wanted to say, go ahead and get it out of the way. Christ is King. Christ is the truth. Go ahead
Amen,
and put
brother.
that up right up there on Front Street. But I just wanted to say thanks for getting me, getting me on this kind of path. It's not you alone, of course. There's been a lot of machinations in my life that sort of put me on this, but
Of
just one of
course.
those things where it's just like, you see a signal from way off, and it's like you see matching signals from the main one, right? It helps. It's helpful.
Yeah, no, like I'm just here for you, you
Yeah,
know.
I
Like
noticed that was
I'm
the
just
theme of
trying to,
today. Was that you're doing service. So I just wanted to say thank you for your
yeah.
service.
Thanks, sir. We're all in God's
That's right.
army. Put on the full armor of Christ in this beautiful October day.
Are you back up in New England? Yeah.
Yeah, it's been nice. I'm out in the woods, out where
Hell
I
yeah,
grew up.
let's go. I was up in Vermont not too long ago. Just barely missed the leaf peeping, but that's all right.
Oh, it's like, dude, every day I watch the colors
It's
change on the
it's
leaves.
so
You know, it's
beautiful
like,
up
oh,
there.
yesterday that one was half yellow, and now it's orange. It's
It
beautiful.
is.
It's like actually being able. You say, like, when people say you can just like watch the grass grow and be interested in that. Well, you can't really watch the grass grow. You can definitely watch the leaves change.
Easy mode. Well, I don't really have much of anything either. Just maybe check out some. We talked a little bit on one of your previous spaces about. I was kind of excitable because I had too much caffeine, but we talked a little bit about uh, reggae music and how my perception of it is that them being on the edge of the world, so to speak, in maybe like a Pajot sort of terminology, allowed them to kind of preserve the root in a way that even a place like Rome or France couldn't. Um,
Well, that's like the church in the wilderness,
right?
right?
Yeah.
In
Yes.
Revelation.
Yes. Very much so. I've always found that fascinating. Well, I say always, since it sort of was mashed into my perception, I found it very interesting.
Yeah, I think that's like my whole thing, man. Is like I hate what they've done to the term Rosicrucian, because I really do like that sort of inside tradition that where like the church in the wilderness, the invisible college, because like that's what I believe the real church is. It's not these whited sepulchres.
Yeah, because well, Jesus said that the temple wasn't going to make it. He said, "Don't look at that beautiful temple. That's not what this is about."
He's the
Yeah,
temple.
that's right. No, let me see. I feel like there was one more thing you just said. Kind of got me thinking. Oh yeah, time. Because time's one object, and we're existing as a being throughout time. We feel it linearly or whatever, but I don't know. It makes an interesting problem for like understanding of sin, I guess. Like, can do you have like a sort of idea about that? Like, maybe, for example, you sin as a young man in the way it haunts you, like, is a function of the fact that time is one piece, so to speak. Does that make sense to
Yeah.
you, or does that?
Yeah, it's one piece. Yeah, exactly.
It's well, like I've never. Okay, it's okay. I've never seen One Piece. I don't. I don't know.
Oh no, I had to do that. I had to do it. I had to do
Okay,
it. But yeah, no, I had to do it. I had to.
that's okay. I don't really know
Uh,
what that means. I'm trying to say it's one
well, that's
unit
kind
of
of the theme of One Piece,
what
actually,
really?
in a way. Yeah,
Well,
yeah. One Piece is deeply Christian in its aesthetics, its
oh,
ethics.
nice.
It's insane. It's like I think it's really funny when like a lot of these institutional Christians, they only know when something's Christian if it's like, this thing is
Yeah,
Christian. Look at
yeah.
it. This thing is
It's
Christian.
unfortunate.
Like, and they can't like they can't read. They're not reading with it. Like, they don't have the hermeneutic. They just have the loyalty, the allegiance. But I don't think that's worth
It's
much.
not the understanding and the sort of striving. I think are probably and the Because if all you have is the sort of sigil, are you forgiving? Are you loving? Like when you can use the sigil and point to it and stand on it and demand others with it, it's not really. It's like missing the point, kind of, so to speak. But I guess I should watch One Piece. And on that note, I'll.
Or just read it. Don't watch it. Don't watch it. You gotta
Read
read
it.
it.
Yeah,
Get into it.
I don't really fuck with anime, but and I don't know a single thing about manga. So
It's the best one. So if you ever want to read any of them, it's the
all
one
right,
to read for sure.
I appreciate it. All right, man. Peace.
For sure, man. Peace, man. I wanted to say a little about what he was talking about. Like, I didn't really answer his question, but I can answer it now about, like, time as a singular object, as a unity, etc. Eternity, the concept of eternity. I believe that everything in the world that happens for a reason. Everything happens for perfectly discernible reasons that we have been given the means to see and understand the truth in Christ. That is what I believe. So that is like we can discern it or not ourselves. We choose whether or not we want to understand the truth or to be haunted by mysteries. People are also led to revere certain mysteries because they do not want to reveal what is beneath those mysteries, the idols that they're worshiping. That's what I believe. So we're all in this together. We're all in the same struggle. It's all, but the reason why we can overcome it is because we can know it. If we couldn't know it, if reality itself, the truth itself, was absolutely unknowable, then we would be damned eternally. And that's what they want you to believe, folks. They want you to believe that you are damned eternally, so you remain in hell. That's what they want. Okay. I'm going to add some people. I haven't seen some of these before. Cash, I got to let you go. I'm going to keep you off for a bit because you're always coming on and your audio is always scared, like always a little off. But I'm going to see if we got Count Dracula. A vampire.
Oh, what's up, Logo? How you doing?
What's up, man? How are you?
I'm doing good. I just woke up and I had like a little dream, I guess. So I like posted a quick little tweet about it, like a little poem. It was called "Chains Light Crabs" or "Drab Crabs Down." That just came to me in a dream right now. So I was like, "Shit, let me just tweet it." And it was my grandma saying it. You know what I mean? But I did want to.
Yeah, I mean,
go ahead.
I mean, I'm not really one, like, I don't really like the kind of superstitious sense of like your ancestors or something looking down upon you and like interceding in your life. I think that is like a noble superstition in the sense that it's like a very, very ancient form of religion. But I don't think that is actually what is happening, if you know what I mean. Like, I think that like the fact that you associate with her with that is like you associating her with like God, right?
Yeah. Well, it kind of coincides with Juche, like from Korea, because they do all that ancestor worship, and I think that's where Twitter's headed. You know, I just after being on here after a while, it's like everybody want to talk about their grandma, like their cousins, all that. So it's kind of like I'm making like a.
Well, I think I think that's good in a way. Like I think that like part of actually the project of history is like that we're actually finding out more and more about it. So we're actually exhuming like the lost saints, like the martyrs to our history that we've forgotten, and that they will actually come into eternal life. Like we'll be able to know more about all of these people, all of our ancestors. I think that's good.
Yeah. Well, anyways, I kind of wanted to give like a little spill about Death Note, the manga. I was wondering if you read it actually.
No, I watched like the first couple things and first couple episodes of it back in the day, and I think I saw a few in syndication, but it's not really it's like a little that's like a type of genre and writing that's like a little pornographic to me. We have this like central conceit and you just have to go more and 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 more of that same thing over and over. And that's kind of like what it is. It's kind of just like it's kind of like It's closer to like a game of like logic puzzles, etc. That's narrated between, like, you know, it's like you setting up. It's like, oh, and now there's this like little logic puzzle that has to get solved. So it's like fundamentally, if you were to watch something like that or to enjoy it the first time, you would lose a lot of enjoyment the second time around, because the enjoyment is from the suspension of the problem, and then the problem is resolved in this type of like kind of explicitly ratioinated way. I don't know. I find those kind of boring.
Okay. Well, I didn't even watch the adaptation. I read the manga because it had like really good art. You know what I mean? And I think it's kind of like the new Batman from like Japan or whatever. Well, first you got like Light, which is the antagonist.
I would say it's like One Piece is like the defining manga. Like, I don't know. There's nothing really else in competition with it. It's like going to be up there with like, I mean, his goal is to get to the top sales of like Shakespeare, the Bible, etc., like the top selling books of all time, like Tolstoy, etc. That's like his real ambition, and he's making it there. And I don't think anything else is even close in that medium.
But yeah, I kind of like how it coincides with Dr. Ray Pete's theory. You know, at first, like, Light takes down L, but then he gets taken down by another detective who, like, only eats chocolate. So it's like that sugar, you know, like fasting, eating, like, a little bit of sugar at a time. That's what gives you, like, that extra, like, kick to be able to, like...
Yeah, I guess that's in there. Yeah.
And then they have kind of like the woman, the feminine cult that like takes over after Light actually dies. So I kind of think that's where we're headed with all these female politicians and stuff. It's kind of like a cult now.
I mean, that wasn't a cult forever? Like, what do you mean? When wasn't it a cult?
Yeah, you're right. But I kind of like how I do think Death Note's kind of biblical. It kind of has that.
Yeah, I mean, it's all pretty much all like, I mean, you can't help but if you're influenced. So the thing with the Bible is, right, that its influence is also mediated through everything else, because like everything. So like there are actually chains of influence. Like, you know, this is I believe it, like Northrop Frye is absolutely correct on this, etc. People are charting maps of the same territory, and they're consulting older maps, and those older maps consult older maps, which consult older maps, etc. And they all go back to the Bible. You're going to end up there, no matter which tradition you're going through. Like, because it's just inevitable, unless you like completely write off the majority of written work ever.
Yeah, it kind of maps reality. And I saw this Jordan Peterson clip. He was like going on and on about how, oh, we have so many questions, and you know, just like going on and on about
the questions. Thing is that Jordan Peterson is an analytic who wants to have faith, but fundamentally does not actually have faith. He will not actually affirm anything like unambiguously, just purely literally. He won't affirm the thing. So he'll just say, what do you mean by that? And he'll dissimulate, because he doesn't actually believe in what he's saying. He wants to, but he doesn't. And that's what I don't like about Jordan Peterson.
He wants to have faith, but he doesn't. Kind of like Peter.
That's what I think.
Kind of like Peter, huh? Like whenever he like fell in the water or whatever. I'm not sure.
That's what I think is like the temptation. Like, for instance, he will point to like the Catholic Church specifically, right? A lot of these people who become like Anglo-Catholic converts or whatever, they're converting to like their sense of like they can have faith on my behalf, and like I will just show up and experience the productions of their faith.
Yeah, you think they're more attracted to like the grandeur, like gold churches and stuff, or what? Like the dresses and tradition?
Yeah, they're kind of just they don't care so much about the spirit. They actually think that they need to preserve these material things that we've imbued with this spirit, because like we it's already everywhere. Like that's the thing. That's the difference between the like I'm a Puritan. Okay, so the Puritans did not come over here. We're like, oh, we're incapable of being Christians because we don't have cathedrals. We're not doing these magical rituals, etc. of the Catholic Church. Like we're just trying to build like a better world. You know, that's what they were trying to do. They weren't. That was the form of that was their church. Their church was also they had like the town hall was the church. The meeting hall was the church. Everything was mediated by the church, which was just made up of the polity itself. The body politic was the church. Everyone was in the church. They had then, like, you can see why there were witch hunts and why the philosophical debates went so far and created violence at times.
It created violence. Oh wow! So they were like really passionate about this stuff.
Yeah, extremely so. It was a matter of everything. Everything was everything. All their discourse was over how do you govern everything. Like what? Like they're consulting the Bible, and they're trying to build a society with this.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I want to add one more thing. I think that's actually really cool. In fact, it's like better than the religion I was raised at. You know, it's like a Jehovah's Witness. Know what I mean?
Yeah, I
Nowadays,
mean, Jehovah's Witnesses are like spawn ultimately much later, and is mostly inspired by a lot of this stuff that came out of like the Second Great Awakening and things like that. It's a very late. It's kind of like an American like folk religion. It's kind of a huckstery faith, right? It's like
yeah,
you're going around. You're like a door to door salesman. That's what it is. Like it's presenting you a spiritualized form of this form of life that exists, like this kind of economic model. Really, you could say it's a
yeah.
corporation, and
Like you
you're a
want to own
worker in that
like
corporation.
glass cleaning stuff and stuff like that. But if you pay attention to their
You
quote
work
unquote propaganda,
you work for a corporation, and you have like a spiritual governance over that, right? Which is represented by like the elders or whatever. Have you been to like the headquarters of the Jehovah's Witnesses?
yeah, the Bethel in New York, I've been there before. It's actually really nice.
Yeah, it's a palace.
Yeah. Well, if you pay attention to their quote unquote like propaganda, now they're talking about like how you're supposed to date and stuff. You know, you're supposed to like send like text messages, even when people fall out of faith or whatever. And to be looking like Kardashians nowadays, you know. And I think one of the biggest like daggers above their head is like the issue of pornography. Because every time they talk about pornography, they're like, "Oh, don't you want to imagine something better?" And I'm like, "Bro, I already been through all that imagination stuff. Stop talking to me about porn, and stop talking to me about like online stuff. I'm out here living in the real world. Know what I mean?"
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a corporation that's just designed to like coordinate your free labor to extract capital from you. That's why it's a church of the Antichrist. I'm sorry to say, but that is a church of the Antichrist. That's not a Christian church.
Yeah, I agree with that. But there's still a lot of love in the church. Know what I mean?
Sure, there are a lot of people under it. Thomas Pynchon, in one of his proverbs for paranoids, right, says like you can never touch the master, but you can tickle his creatures. But he also says, so those are the creatures of this master, right? You can never touch
Right.
the master, but you can tickle his creatures. Okay, and then there's the another proverb, which is the morality of the servant is in inverse proportion to the immorality of the master. So a lot of these people are very good people, but they serve something far more evil than they could possibly be guilty of themselves, right? There's nothing that they would ever consciously do. They know not what they do. They are working towards the good, and they are often very good people, very people who do not deserve to be treated this way, to be led this way, etc. Right?
Yeah. Seems like the biggest problem is revelations. You know how you interpret revelations nowadays.
Of course. Of course. That's actually what the whole purpose of the book is. The whole purpose of the book is to be able to understand what's happening in that book. That's where every church decides upon. They decide what is revealed in Revelations. That's the question.
Yeah, those
They all
pensions
say Christ is the
proverbs.
truth, but that's not the end of the dissension. All of these people will say Christ is the truth, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But really, it's the interpretation of Revelations that the churches divide most bitterly upon. The Puritans, who I like, had a historicist reading of Revelations. So what they said is that Revelation was happening around us all of the time, that this was a description of an imminent reality, that history itself was described in Revelation.
Yeah, there's that one theologian, I forgot his name, but he said that Revelations is like proof that we're supposed to like it's still a job for us Christians, you know. We're not supposed to just give up on it. We're all like united in the
Yeah,
struggle.
that's the distinction between. So then in the Counter Reformation, the Jesuits had to come up with a reading to counter the literalist description and interpretation, the historicist and literalist conception of the book of Revelations that the Puritans and the Reformers upheld, and the Jesuits, the Counter Reformation, commanded these two arguments. They're called the preterist and the futurist hypothesis. The futurist hypothesis is that the book of Revelations describes events that will take place very far in the future. We need not worry ourselves about that. The preterist interpretation is that the book of Revelations, everything described therein, happened a long time ago, and we need
Oh
not
wow.
worry about it.
Yeah, well in my religion it's actually cool because we're always like prepping for like the apocalypse, the Armageddon. You know, we have like go bags. all that. We have like plans.
That's not preparation. That's how they get you to buy merchandise. You're a part of the preparation fandom. Okay,
Well, it's not
I told you
merchandise,
you're in
like
a
stuff
church of
about
the
the
Antichrist. They're not teaching you the truth. They're misleading you to extract their capital because they worship the Antichrist.
It reminds me of that one video I saw from the organization, like where they had all the people bunkered down in like a gray room, and like you're gonna have to like, I don't know, kind of like figure out what God's trying to tell you or whatever. I don't know. It's a whole bunch of like.
I'm saying you should
I don't know.
flee that church because it is a den of iniquity.
Yeah, that sounds right. I don't know. I like going to churches in general, just to like eat like free food and stuff. But regardless, I appreciate like all the proverbs. That shit is like really thought provoking. Know what I mean?
That's what I'm here for. I got some other customers lined up, so I think. Are you satisfied with your service?
Yeah, get your money up.
Thanks,
right.
man.
Thank you.
All right, Kaiserberg. How can I help you?
Speak about the different positions on Revelation. You know, some people think it's going to happen in the future. Some people are going to, think they happened like a long time ago. I just came. So
two specific Jesuit theologians came up with those, but yes.
Which one would you subscribe to?
I don't believe in either of those. I think that's a false opposition. I think that's complete misinformation. I think it's a way of completely destroying the text. I think it's like, a great lie, truthfully, because I'm a historicist, as they say,
Right.
or as other people might say, a fundamentalist or a biblical literalist. I believe the book of Revelations is happening all around us, all the time. That the things that were said and described in that actually describe reality as it's unfolding to us.
Okay. Yeah, that's a very unique way of seeing things. I mean, obviously, like ties in with like Hegel and and fucking how do you call that thing again?
This is what Hegel said. Hegel says
yeah.
This is why the revealed religion triumphs, right? And Hegel is actually trying to explicate this more as well. So he's describing, the procession of the spirit in time, right?
Yeah.
He's interpreting history in the same way, apocalyptically. That's why history has such a strong metaphysical base in Hegel. Hegel makes history the font of revelation. And this is what the rationalists and the analytics hate about Hegel, is that it's not reason, it is history. It's the
Absolutely.
logos.
No,
in time.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, obviously, it's among like theologians. Obviously, I've never had that view, but no, that's fascinating. So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome, man. You satisfied with your service?
Yeah, thank you. Very, very, very satisfied. Thank you.
All right. Thanks. All right. And Sats, I haven't had you on in a bit, so what's up? How can I help you?
Hey, can you hear me? How are you?
Yeah, what's up?
Yeah, I was thinking the other day kind of about what you're saying about how like Christ is the truth and like it really has to be the basis for all your metaphysics. And I was thinking about how remarkable it is, but like it's like undeniable that Christianity really has like kind of the basic hermeneutical system you lay out for understanding history like through the Bible, it's just reading the Bible, but like which is Christianity with the Catholic
It's very simple.
Rome as the Antichrist.
The way is narrow. It's very simple.
Yeah, but it's like it literally has this explanatory, comprehensive understanding of the world that every other religion, every other major world religion completely lacks in that like.
Yeah, Hegel says this, right? This is like Hegel says this in like the phenomenology of the spirit. Like he describes the passing through of this, and like this is like Hegel sort of also addresses the issue of like the bourgeois church, the church of the Antichrist that exists, right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I guess the thing that I stumbled upon that really blew my mind is Zoroastrianism, which like I feel like I just always hear it like learned about it like vaguely in history class, and it's always described like it's just like this very like dualistic religion. And I stumbled on Wikipedia,
Yeah.
and it's like one of its most basic creeds. It's like there's issues translating it, but one of the first translations on Wikipedia is, "As the master, so is the judge to be chosen in accord with truth. Establish the power of acts arising from a life lived with good purpose, for Mazda and for the Lord, whom they made pastor for the poor." So like,
Yeah.
it's just like predicting Christianity as like it's like.
No, it is influenced by Christianity. That's the thing.
So do you think that stuff doesn't predate Christianity?
Oh, I thought you're talking about Zoroastrianism. I mean, these notions spread a lot, and Christ definitely traveled far and wide in his youth to learn a lot. I mean, he was on boats. He built boats. He had sea legs.
Mm-hmm.
Christ moved around a lot. He went all over the place. He went to Egypt. He went all over the place. He was very he told the apostles and his disciples that he had flocks that they knew not of. Like, he didn't lie.
Yeah, I guess I was struck by the idea that maybe if some of these teachings of like this kind of dualistic religion that as its core has this belief that it's literally just describing Christ of like God is going to choose like the perfect master and send him to earth, and he's going to be the one.
Yeah. I mean, there's actually even crazier stuff where if you look at the records of the Chinese oracles, the astrological alignments of the time, they predicted the birth of the God Man, and they also said that he died.
Yeah,
that he was killed.
Yeah, I think also some of the like just the Chinese sage quotes you post. The one I think about a lot is it's like if there's one righteous king on earth, everyone would like be drawn to him. Like
the three
water,
magi were Zoroastrians, possibly even Chinese Zoroastrians.
Okay, well, yeah, wow, yeah, and I guess
the magi.
Yeah, and then probably I'm sure you know this, but maybe just to explain some of my thoughts and it might be useful. Where like paganism, it's like what as you're saying, it's kind of like everything is perfectly rational, and like if you're a Christian, you need to just like take it seriously, but like everything is explicable. Where like paganism makes sense for someone who's like cut off from the revelation of God historically, and it's remarkable that all the pagans everywhere, they acknowledge God, and it's like you have to, because it's just like the worship of the local gods. It's like if an Abrahamic civilization comes and like conquers your people, you have to defer to them as like the more powerful god, like within the pagan worldview. It's like the only coherent kind of way of behaving.
Well, it's like religion is political, like religion is politics, right? Like these things are, and like it's metaphysics. All of these things, like it's monadic, like they all reflect on each other. They're like you're basically like they're all connected. You can't like have one without the other. They're all mediated to us at the same time historically, really.
Mm-hmm.
Like in our collective and social present conditions, like the world is mediated to us through all of these through history, through experience of existing in this, and like we have all of these records and things from past times, and we're trying to put together an understanding of like where we fit in the big picture.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's remarkable that like all the other like great major world religions, like all the largest ones, like most of them are just like paganisms that were just really like just associated with literally elaborate, long-lasting empires, and they like perfectly reflect them. But it's like clear, it's like I'm thinking here of like Hellenistic religion or like Hinduism.
Yeah,
like, both of them are just like they play their regressive role in history, and like if you take Christianity seriously, you have to just be like it's not condemning everything, like every single person who believes these things or whatever, because it's like you can still be a good person, and so like follow the Holy Spirit. But it's like they need to be defeated. And then I was also thinking about like Buddhism, of how like Buddhism in some ways like makes us
Buddhism is nihilism.
Yeah, it's like the opposite of Christianity, and that in like it's just like total denial, and it's like it claims the same kind of comprehensive power as Christianity, but just by saying
the worship of death.
Yeah, exactly. And then and I was thinking about this. It's also kind of like one of the historical puns that like it's crazy that Christ is crucified like right by the Dead Sea, the lowest point on earth, and Buddhism comes about in the foothills of the Himalayas, like miles away from Mount Everest, which is just like, I don't know, to me that's just like the kind of thing that you can read into rationally, is like if God had this like big plan for history of like it's really kind of like Buddhism is kind of one of the centers of this whole like Eastern pole of civilization, but it's like this cyclical nihilist worldview that kind of
Well, the thing
underpins it
is
for a
that
long
like
time.
I subscribe to the belief that the Buddha was a Scythian warlord.
Mm-hmm.
That's the belief. That's the what I think, because I think
those
that
are people from like
Buddhism,
Central Asia, right?
yeah, and Buddhism. So it's a religion of these master class, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is going like a base. You know, they're just they're creating empire in that sense. Very different from the Mongol horde, who's you know, the Khan's wives were often Christians. Christianity was one of the religions of the Mongol Empire, etc. Lots of things that people don't know about Christian history, how wide ranging its impact was so swiftly, how fast it spread across everywhere that it could. It's really quite remarkable. People have a very difficult time explaining why that is, if they think that it's all just a grift or nonsense or something. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And it's, again, I think it's like we can recognize Buddhism's like nihilism, but we can also recognize, I think, that like if you're like a peasant in 500 BC, Nepal or whatever, like probably its worldview has like a certain explanatory power that like is appealing. But it's like we just have to understand that like it's like crisis come, we have the revolution now. So
well, if you look,
that's
like, right, like it had a very rewarding religion to the priests of the religion, but not so much to their you know, to their serfs. They lied to their serfs. You know, what do they tell their serfs? They're like, you know what, you were born into this. Like, it's like luck of the draw. Next time you might be me if you're really good at doing that. Everything's actually fair. You just have to work really hard, and then you'll die, and then you'll be me. You get to enjoy life the way that I enjoy it, know the mysteries, et cetera, et cetera. It's truly evil.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. And then I think we have to also understand, of course, like it's like liberalism is just like modern antichrist Western version of like Buddhist nihilism, and it's like communism is this like kind of more like Asiatic land-based empire approach to like. It's really so similar. It's like the same thing as Abrahamic faith, basically.
Well, for instance, what is the behemoth? Like the dialectic of Leviathan and the behemoth in the Bible, right? The Leviathan is the crocodile. Okay, mm-hmm. It's a reptilian thing that slithers around in the rivers. You know.
Yeah.
Okay, and then what is the enemy of the crocodile? What do battle? Is the behemoth, the chief of the ways of God? What's that? That's the hippo. So the hippo is not in the water in the same way. It's not a predator. It actually walks around on land as well, and it's powerful on land and sea. The crocodile is not that powerful on land.
Yeah. So nice talking about it. I don't think I have that much more to say because but yeah, it's just really remarkable how it's just Christianity has this perfection to it that pretty much every other world religion, like it's just either under its own logic, like has to accede to Christianity, is like completed by Christianity, like
or it's taking stuff from it. Like, you know, there's a lot of Buddhisms, like, because when I talk about Buddhism, I'm talking about like, you know, the fucking Orthodox Buddhism, you know what I mean? Like the basic elements of it, and not everything that is grown around this basic tool set or whatever for making a religion.
Is what you mean?
But because there's like Pure Land Buddhism, right? But those guys were Buddhists under the what are they? Fuck, I always forget names. Not the Zoroastrians, the other ones I named that were later. The Manichaeans, which was, you know, another attempt to mediate all of these different faiths, these different political polities too, under this one like kind of syncretic state thing, which gave acknowledgement to all of them, like within its own cosmology or whatever. So that means that you'd have Buddhists who thought that these Christians, et cetera, all these other people, a lot of monotheists, et cetera, that they were all like under the same thing. And so that's like where, you know what I mean? Like so the synergy happens between them. You see like Christian ideas, elements of Christianity that are like unique to Christianity entering all of these other religions too. So you find people often are attracted to the fragments of Christianity that they find in things like theosophy and things like that, right? Like I was talking the other day, a couple spaces ago, to the guy. I think he was the infamous business owner as well. But he was talking about his interest in Scottish Rite Freemasonry, right?
Yeah.
because they claim to, you know, describe these things from like a Christian. They claim to be Christians, right? Like in a way,
Mhm.
and they claim to like have answers to the mysteries that are in the Bible. They're of course like lies, but this is like why people are attracted to it. Same thing with something like QAnon, right? Like QAnon was actually Christian hermeneutical understanding. It was like invoking this sense of like the apocalypse and the end times and an interpretation of revelations, etc., telling people that like the vaccines were like the literal mark of the beast, etc.
Yeah. 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 I think, yeah. And I really say it's just all of it is so remarkable that like I think you're really the first person, and like obviously you point to all these people for thousands of years who have been writing about history this way, or like obviously like Hegel did it, which is it's hilarious how Hegel is like kind of revered, but like I feel like in college they're just like, oh well, Hegel doesn't make sense, like he's too esoteric. Like
Yeah, and the Anglo-Analytic tradition of philosophy is an imposter of philosophy. Where our philosophy is done is poetry. We are really poetic because
Yeah.
that's our biblical origin. It's something that those people want to reject. They hate poetry. They hate poetry. They hate
Mhm.
life. They're
Yeah.
analytics. Do you hear that guy at the very beginning? I'm reading beautiful poetry. And what does he see in it? The Caucasian gaze. These people hate life.
Yeah. Yeah, so clear. And yeah, but it's just remarkable how much power this worldview of like it's just like no one teaches you to think like this, of just being like, wow, look at these Chinese sages basically predicting Christ, and look at this political understanding of like Christ preaching, and now look 2,000 years later communism is like rising and lifting the impoverished people of the world out, based in China, by mixing like Confucianism with communism with like this
And if you read
Western
like a
morality.
lot of these, like, so the thing is that like Christ's ministry has been from the foundation of time. So it's like, it's not like it's only fully revealed in Christ, but people have like anticipated this forever
Mhm.
because it's the only rational solution to
Yeah.
our problems. Like it's the only thing that makes sense.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
you know, I read a ton of like the Chinese tradition of philosophy is a lot closer to poetry as well, I think, because it's a lot closer in tone to stuff like the Old Testament, in my opinion. So like
Mhm.
what is the rule of heaven, right? This is the question of Chinese philosophy.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
That's
I
why
don't
it's
think I
like
have
they
anything
also were
else.
like, you know, they have like their own even amongst like all of the other like Asiatic faiths, like they have their own like kind of ancestral like monotheism, like with Tian, like the worship of heaven, you know, heaven being and then the rule of heaven, like, you know, it's like you can see the anticipations of these things for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, I don't think I have anything else, but
All right, thanks for coming on, man. Are you satisfied with your service?
Yep.
All right, peace out, man.
For sure. For sure.
All right. I haven't seen this guy before, so I'm going to put him on Class Solidarity. You're up.
Hey, Logo.
What's up, man?
Not much. Just fun. How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good, man. I'm reading some good poems. This is the last space I'm going to do for a bit because I've been doing a lot of these. I'm going to put them all together. So I just wanted to do this today. I felt inspired to do so.
Yeah, I've been listening to the spaces. I enjoy them quite a bit. Logo.
Yeah, I think people do like them.
Logo, I got a question for how you square a circle. Because here you are, you're talking about Christ is the truth. Yet you also claim to be Marxist, historical materialist. Maybe I just don't understand.
Dialectical materialist.
Dialectical materialist. All that exists is matter in motion. The way I understand God, the idea of ideas, the sublime thought of thoughts. So this is an apparent contradiction to me.
Well, if where Marx would disagree with Christ, I disagree with him. But I've taken a lot from his analytical toolbox as well as myriad others. You know, I'm not trying to just be an orthodox Marxist. I'm trying to be a Christian. You see what I'm saying? So what an analysis of class in history is actually very revelatory. That's actually very deeply. You can't understand a lot of the Bible without understanding that the class war exists also within the Bible, that Jesus Christ is making a real political engagement with the class war throughout the entirety of his ministry, that what he's doing is actually truly politically revolutionary also, because you can't just separate it from politics. This idea that religion and politics can be separated from each other is not the same thing as the separation of church and state. I believe in the separation of church and state, but I think that religion and politics are the same thing.
I agree. Religion and politics are the same thing. It just seems like you don't make an attempt to reconcile Jesus Christ and Marx, and I think they can be.
Make other way around. I tried to reconcile Marx to Christ. I see Marx. Have you read Marx's earliest writing? Like when he was like a 17-year-old, he's a very devout Christian. He took it very seriously. I think he took this. You want to hear my take on Marx? I'll lay it out for you. I think that Marx was a very devout and like unambiguous Christian in his youth, like truly believed. I don't think, like a lot of people say that he was forced to convert. This is a very very standard sort of argument these days. It's impossible that people could have been persuaded to Christianity, you know, and been traitors to their ancestors, et cetera, et cetera. But I think he was a devout Christian, much like Engels, whose parents were all pastors, Calvinists, strict Calvinists, very strict Calvinists. This is a huge, huge part of what builds their hermeneutical faculties in the first place. But at the same time, they're in a moment in history where these churches that once stood in opposition to capital, that once stood in opposition to empire, have become the vehicles thereof, right? So what do you do in that condition where all of the people who are leading these Christian churches, who call themselves Christian, are abusing the workers and they're defending it as good and righteous? That's what the slave owner said too, right? What do you do under those conditions? If you don't have the separation of church and state, if you live under a state church,
or you make a new
church has become corrupted, what do you do? So you oppose that, right? But if you oppose that, what are you?
You're a heretic.
Exactly. So Marx and Engels are heretics, right? In the eyes of this, and they play with this. A lot of people played with this, and they said, "Okay, if you're going to call me a heretic, then I'm an atheist, even, because I don't believe in your God."
So you think it's just a breaking with the Scarlet Horde in this like overall process that also later involves the breaking with lesser state churches that also broke away from Rome, is a process that just leads one all the way to atheism, and you must go all that way to then before you come back in history?
Well, if you're worshiping the wrong God, don't you have to first disbelieve in it? Like if this is what the fruits of this church, this state church have been, if that's the fruits, then why would you have faith in it?
Mm-hmm.
If you're authentic and you're actually, and not just like concerned with appearing orthodox to the consensus of people, but in trying to follow the actual commands, the commandments of Christ, what's more important? Like, isn't it more important? Like, I see bravery in a lot of these people marred as heretics.
This is the reason why
I see the Antichrist church crucifying the true Christians. That's what I see.
I agree with you, and this is why I became like a new atheist when I was a kid. In George Bush's America. But
so because we don't believe in George Bush's God.
No, of course, George Bush is the grandson of Aleister Crowley.
He worships the Antichrist.
Yeah.
So we don't worship his God. What is he, an Episcopalian? I don't worship their God.
Right. I guess the thing is, Olga, because I also agree with you that Marx, in his creation of his communist movement, is trying to revive the early church and the authentic movement of the early church against Rome. It's just when it comes to the actual philosophy itself. Of
course, there are issues.
These are the way I actually think. I think in these types of terms. And so this contradiction between the existence of everything being matter and the existence of a thought of thoughts, doesn't that gnaw at you? Doesn't that cause you wonder?
No, it makes perfect sense to me.
Really? Okay. It just clicks normally. Okay.
Yeah, this is how I'm just telling you. I'm calling it. I'm just shooting from the hip here, man. This is
Fair
how I
enough.
see it.
No worries. I mean, over a long period of thought on this question, I've come to my own conclusions. But I was just
Like,
curious
I
what
really
you were
do
thinking.
believe in God. Like, I believe in God, like, authentically. Like, and like, to me, it's not really even like I've had faith. Like, I've also believed, like, kind of rationally or without, like, experientially or understanding. But, like, I just see it now. Like, I can't deny my eyes. I couldn't go back.
So when you say you believe in God, what do you mean?
Exactly that. It's pretty simple. I mean it in a
What is God?
myriad ways. There's infinite ways to describe that. Have you read like the Psalms? Like, you know, the people have written about that. It means everything.
All right, yeah, fair enough. You can't describe it in literal terms. You must approach it through poetry, and
You
so
must
read the
approach it through
Psalms. All
faith
right.
in the word, the revealed word of the prophets. That's it. It's that simple. It's all rational. It all makes sense. It's very simple.
Very simple, he says, about the thing people have been arguing about for all of time.
Yeah, that's what Christ said too. He said it's pretty fucking simple, guys. You're gonna crucify me over this?
Well, I mean, that's another thing. I have a problem with God as man. That seems like idolatry. I really appreciate
Idolatry of
the
man? Or
no,
idolatry
the
of what?
idolatry to take a man, or a righteous man, and proclaim him as God. I don't know. The Muslim
Why?
criticism has always rung true to me.
What?
Because
He's God.
there
Like,
are
who else is? No, it's not. It's not that he's God. He's a person. He's a person in the tripartite structure of the Godhead, which is the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Okay, so Christ is the Son of God, and that means that he is the Word that God breathes through the Holy Spirit into time. Okay,
there is no God but God. The Trinity makes no sense to me.
who is with God in creation? Do you deny that the breath of God, the Spirit of God, was with God in creation? Do you deny that the Word of God was with God in creation?
No, but when
Well, then
it
what are those parties?
appears
What are
in
those persons?
isn't the spirit or the breath of God in all mankind? Isn't that what makes
Yes, the
us
Holy
in
Spirit
His
is
image?
within all of us. The Holy Spirit of God is within all of us, but the Holy Spirit is also a separate person to God, the Father, the God, the Absolute, the host of hosts.
God is one and indivisible.
No, God is tripartite. We have the Godhead. We refer to three parties as God. They are all God. They are all equal to God. They are all God. Each one simultaneously. This sounds like a paradox to you, but it makes perfect sense to me. I cannot deny this.
I mean, this also I agree with the Muslim reading of history as well with these things. So
You're saying what you
whatever.
have been persuaded by, but you're not providing an argument, my friend. You're just saying that you have
Well,
found those arguments persuasive, but you have not examined the arguments thereof, and you have not displayed them. You have not compared them to the argument that I am making.
the argument you're making isn't the division of the unity of God into multiple parts merely a way for
Unity and
ambitious
multiplicity
priests?
are preserved at the same time. And if you want to connect this to your conception of communism, that means that the unity and the multiplicity of peoples is held in its, they're reconciled. They're not destroyed. They're reconciled. The
You
one and the many are the same. That's the paradox you must wrap your head around. You see, the dictator of the proletariat is a you could see
see,
a part of this notion, right?
when it's
Which is
the
that the
one
one and the
and the
many
many,
are the same.
that I understand. But the three, this seems like you're just
There's the
that
one,
it's
there's the
reaching back
two, and
into
there's the three.
traditions.
There's the
The
one,
one,
which
the
is the one.
three.
There's the two, which is the few. There's the three, which is the many. If you want to think in binary opposites, then side with the few. 1, 1, 2, 1, 0. Yes or no, A, up or down, up vote, down vote, binary, black or white. But there's a way of seeing beyond this. You can see with that as well. But it's a waste of time. Are you satisfied with your service?
I'm satisfied. You got a lot to confuse me and make me mull over for. Thank you for your
That's what
service,
I'm here
Logan.
for. All right, on to the next one. I think Eric Hammer wants to come. You already been on, man. I'm gonna hit Quaternal up because I like him. I haven't talked to him in a bit. How you doing, man?
Hey, Logo. I'm all right. I'm all right. How are you, man?
I'm great. Doing what I love, serving the people.
Great, man. Keep it up, bro. I mean, I absolutely love your shit, obviously. I guess I had one little, I wouldn't call it an insight, but a proposition, and it might help the last speaker as well, maybe in figuring some stuff out. You mentioned one of the proverbs for paranoids, the one about the morality of, or the immorality of the master being proportional to the morality of the slave. I would add in that little equation that actually the difference between those would be actually the difference in recognition between the two, right?
Sure, yeah.
As in the
Hegelians.
Yeah, so that makes perfect sense, right? And then recognition is poetry, essentially, wouldn't you say?
In the sense that everything is poetry, right?
Right. So
what isn't poetry? We're doing is the world is a poem.
Sure. Okay. Then my question really would be like, how do you to Anglo box the issue? I guess how would you make a proposition about
to
what?
Waste some time?
No. I mean, like, what? How would you define that recognition? Because it is infinite, right? But you would. It has a movement. Right, that's the assumption. The assumption is that
it's a revelation,
revelation,
the unveiling, the apocalypse.
Right, ultimate citizenship of every citizen on Earth, that kind of stuff. Right.
The New Jerusalem.
Yeah. All right. Well.
Yeah, I don't know. That's like I can come up with myriad other words for it, but usually, if the Anglo boxers are looking for a definition, they're not looking for that.
No, they're not. They're looking for the Caucasian gaze. Yeah.
Can you believe it though? If you were a true Anglo boxer, you would say that my answer was a waste of your time. Amazing. Even though the question is a waste of time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I suppose.
That's like these people haven't read Wittgenstein because they're still playing a game that he completely destroyed. They've been trying to put together the pieces after he blew it all up long ago. They're in denial. They're holding on to the shambles of their metaphysics.
You're not wrong. I mean, but how would you? So, what's the movement of recognition that would make them submit to your proposition that Christ is the truth? I mean, how do you get from point A to point B? Like that's I guess that's the question, really. Like,
it's different for everyone, I suppose, right? Like, how did I get there? I don't know. Not the way a lot of people do. I don't know. Everyone has a different experience. I can't speak for that. I don't know what they need. You know, I don't know if they want what they need. I don't know if they want to be saved. I don't know if maybe they want to go to hell. Maybe they want to be damned for eternity.
Sure, I mean, probably they do, but they wouldn't formulate it like that, right? I mean, they'd say
they'd say it in some other way, but in effect, that's what their fruits would be.
Yeah. So your job has been basically to reformulate their desires in a Christian hermeneutic and show them that they're wrong, right? I mean, that's essentially.
That's it. Yeah, but they don't want that, you know. They don't care for it. They want to be persuaded. They want to be persuaded by someone they find persuasive. My arguments are not persuasive to them.
I mean, I find them persuasive, but I suppose that also has to do with it, right? I mean, persuasion, whether or not you want it to be a part of it.
I try to provide examples.
Yeah.
See, like in my attempts to persuade them, my true goal, what they never catch on to, is that my real goal is to provide an example to everyone else. I'm not trying to persuade them in a way that they would find persuasive, because they are not going to find me persuasive. They hate me. I know that. I'm there just simply trying to provide an example to the third parties who can observe this dialectical engagement between myself and that person and see the fruits of the argumentation. That's all.
Right, just Socratic dialogue then, really.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I mean, I guess
Socrates very rarely changes anyone's minds in Plato.
that's true. Although, wouldn't you say? I mean, this is an argument that I mean, I've read a lot of Nietzsche.
They usually just all start to make fun of him at the end.
Right.
They just stop arguing at
They
all.
make fun of him, but at the same time, I think Nietzsche makes this point, and I think it's an interesting point, that Socrates was so hated because he was rationalizing, something that was kind of inert, right? I mean, he was basically trying to define the class positions of everyone and why they're doing what they're doing when they weren't really interested in finding that out.
Yeah, that's exactly, right? So that's like an issue. I think that's an issue, right? I think people should want to know and understand the reasons for things, like knowing thyself, right? Know thyself is what Socrates is going. So he's asking but he's saying like, well, do I know myself? And he's not sure he does know himself. So he's asking other people if they know themselves so they can teach him how to know himself. But he finds that none of them can. And that he's been knowing himself the whole time. And he's been doing that, as Marshall McLuhan notes, by actually like kind of existing as the word itself, as like the written word itself. Because he didn't just allow people's statements to fly off into the ether, just like expressions of their sentiment. He wanted to understand what the ultimate rationale was behind those things. So he would say, you just said this, but you just said this, right? And he's trying to connect them into a picture, right? A holistic body from their speech. But he doesn't find any. He finds a homunculus.
Right, but they're also saying, I mean, his interlocutors are often saying essentially like, I am just myself and I don't really find a need in my life to really have a rational ground for this. And I mean, essentially that's what faith is about as well, right?
Yeah, but that's why it's kind of a blessing. We consider it a blessing to be amongst the people in need of faith, because we get to know the truth. They won't ever know the truth. They're haunted. They're pagans, right? They're superstitious as hell. They believe in fate. They have all of these worryings.
Mm-hmm.
They say that, but is that their revealed preference or just their stated preference to Socrates? How do we know if they truly were content? Maybe they weren't self-conscious because they didn't know themselves.
No, but okay, sure, but Socrates, I mean, completely eliminates this idea of knowing yourself when he talks about a pious man, right? What does he say? He says, I don't know what a pious man is, but I know one when I see one. So essentially, he can't give a rational ground for piety either.
That's true. That's why the ultimate question is like, what is the perfect example of the pious man? He didn't have that.
Right.
He could see it, but he couldn't define it because he didn't have
Jesus,
the absolute composition, right? He didn't have the holistic body on the cross. He didn't have that.
All right. Well, fair enough. Yeah, that clears some things up, I suppose.
I think it makes sense.
Yeah, I think it makes sense as well. I mean, it's still puzzling, right? But I suppose it's meant
I think
to be.
it's like I think it's beautiful.
It is.
I think it's like a beautiful thing, like that. It all makes sense.
Yeah, no, I agree. It does.
I love that reality makes like perfect sense. That I like to call these like God's puns or something, right? That there are these types of things where like in there, like for instance, in like a lot of Plato's dialogue, in a lot of these dialogues, they're discussing the perfectly just man and like what would happen to the perfectly just man in an unjust society, right? Like how would you know if the justice being meted out was truly the highest justice? Well, then you would have to test it by the most perfectly just man.
You would, yeah.
How does it treat you know what I mean? And that's we see that Christianity answers that question. They are speculating, but we have it confirmed. And that's the difference between philosophy, which is the love for Sophia, right? The love for, the pining after with the lack, and the philologist, the lover of the word. I'm not a philosopher. I hate philosophy. Philosophy is idolatry, and theology is idolatry.
I agree. I mean,
poetry is
I'm inclined to be a philosopher. Honestly, I don't really have great poetic skills. So, I mean, I appreciate poetry, but I don't really feel that I'm able to create it myself. But
of course you can.
Well, I mean, like,
I know you can.
sure. I mean, anyone can, but you know, to do it well is a different issue, right?
Well, it's the same thing anyone can be, but to be well is a different
Mm.
thing. It's the same problem.
Yeah.
We're like the poets of creation, you know. We're made in God's image. We create things. Everyone creates things all the time. They create things with their speech, their movements, their habits, their ways of life.
No, absolutely. I mean, and that's I guess the main difference between a Spinozism and a Hegelianism, right? Is that central?
Yeah, between nihilism and Christianity, also.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, well, they're synonymous, really. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the thing, is that there's all of these very old philosophies that walk around in new names. And they're like, hey, this is a new thing. And it's like, this is as old as time.
Oh yeah, I mean that's I mean, you know, I think we were talking about liberalism and Buddhism. I mean, I would venture to say that they're essentially the same things. Zizek makes this point that Buddhism is the most well-adjusted religious
To tyranny.
mindset to tyranny. Yeah, absolutely. To and just yeah, I mean,
Yeah, because none of it's real. So you can just like don't stop paying attention. Just don't look at it.
right, right.
Do some harm reduction. Do some self-care. Do some meditation.
Sure, yeah. I mean, a lot of Christians, you know, are in the same boat as well, though, right? I mean, you know, I mean,
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, as we say, right? Like it's not like you know, like we're to joy in the mission, right? We're not like celebrating heaven on earth right now. We can see it coming into being, but we obviously live under the reign of the Antichrist. Like it's self-evident. So it's like a lot of so yeah, you see it everywhere, like literally everywhere. I cannot deny my eyes. I see it everywhere.
yeah, but yet you're able to still reach for the absolute spirit through things like poetry or virtuous politics. I mean, is that what you would?
In all things,
In all
things,
things,
like
yeah.
I have to, like I keep this I try to keep conscious of this, like in my dealings with people in real life, you know, like with my friends, with people who come to me with their struggles and their problems, and I struggle with it all the time, every day. It's a struggle.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's how I think it is for everyone, though.
Undoubtedly. I mean, except if you're a Buddhist, in which case, you know, you negate that struggle entirely, and you know, you're damned to hell.
You
Essentially.
accept death as your god.
Yeah.
yeah. You accept your lot in oblivion.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really simple choice when you think about it. Yeah.
They don't understand the terms of the choice that they're making, though. They don't know that the choice is between life and death, right? They just don't know, or they deny it. Like they're haunted by the possibility, but they can't articulate it. They're often blinded by their pride. Obviously, you know what's the funniest thing about these like Eastern faiths in an analytic context is that these people are the most prideful people in the world. Like they're like, I am the most selfless man, the philanthropist. You know, I am the quantitative charity man. You know, I am the effective altruist.
Yeah, like Sam Harris style, really. I mean,
Yeah, they have they're just nothing but their pride, and they pride themselves on how unprideful they are.
yeah.
They call this the egoism of no ego. I have no ego. I have no self-concern. I'm only concerned for others, they say. And blink.
Right. No, and that's why I like what you said about I hadn't really thought about that, but about pride and how one should really be putting out their pride in order to be humiliated. That's like a really interesting dialectical move you did there. I think that's right. I think it's correct.
It's true. It's what we're called upon to do. That's what taking up the cross is. I mean, Christ was humiliated more than I ever will be.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and he was a prideful man in a sense. I mean, you have to have some
as Blake
balls,
said, right? Like what Blake said, what they call humility, the humility of the Pharisees, etc. He called pride, that they were the ones who were proud. And what they called humility, i.e., what the Christians would call Christ's humility, Blake calls pride. That's pride. That's true pride. That's the lion.
Yeah, no, absolutely, 100%.
The lion and the lamb in one, laying together. That's Christ. It's beautiful. It's also beautiful, man. Like I see it everywhere. I see it in everything.
Yeah, so lying in William Blake, you would equate that to pride, essentially, or to veracity, or
to that type of that type of righteousness, that type of beneficent authority, right? Like because one of the things is that people are Christians, but they hate God, like the God the Father, like the larger sense of God. Like they haven't reconciled themselves to the Old Testament. They haven't reconciled themselves to the realities and the necessities of history, right? Like Christ went into the bank with a whip. Okay, he was breaking the tablets that recorded the debts. That's like Jesse James. That's why I read the Jesse James poem.
yeah, no, I see it.
That's how I see everything. I see it in everything, you know? I don't know. It's like I want to give people that. And it's a joy, really. Like it's my primary joy in life is just being and seeing and observing. That's it. Like this is what I do. So, are you satisfied with your service, sir?
I mean, I'm incredibly satisfied with your service.
All right, thank you.
All right.
I'll move on to the next one.
Cheers,
Thanks for
man.
coming on, bud. All right, I've got. Is there anyone new want to come on? I talked to Cash a lot. I talked to Spatial Lurch a lot. I just had Ansats, and I think I talked to Banks Bowling the other day. Is there anyone else, like a listener, long-time listener, first-time caller, whoever it is? I want to serve a customer that I haven't served before. I'm trying to acquire new customers. So if there's anyone out there, okay, we got loading. Thanks for appearing, man. Let's see. How can I help you? Hey, how can I help you?
Oh yeah, just long time listener. I appreciate these streams and stuff you've done over the last year. I'm just kind of out walking there. Anyway, I suppose I think I've wanted to ask you for a while. It's not that related, I guess, to the Christian theme today, but I guess I just wanted to say that I was very sort of heartened and inspired, I guess, by the connection you keep making between sort of anarchist libertinism or whatever and fascism, and how these things are kind of make a logical one.
They're the same
exactly
thing.
Yeah, that's so fascinating because it just tracks so well.
Well, it just tracks. You just have to understand the person of pride and Lucifer, because Lucifer is an anarchist, right? But he's also a tyrant.
Yeah.
These are the paradoxes that we see in reality, right? And these people who are like binary thinkers or whatever, they'll say, how could those people be fascists if they claim to be anti-fascist? That doesn't make sense. How could one be -1? How could these be the same? How could 1 and -1 become 0, right? Like you know what I mean? They can't reconcile the actual imminent contradictions in reality, the paradoxes that we face, that we have to hermeneutically decipher with the word God. So what does the Bible tell about anarchists, people who hate governance itself? What are they? They're demonically possessed. They do not, because governance is also about your own governance, right? If you don't believe in governance at all, then you don't believe in governing yourself.
Yes.
Your own impulses, your own desires. You don't want to govern those. You want those to be ungoverned. You believe in the ungovernment of yourself, right? And that means that you act tyrannically towards others.
Yeah, and
because you believe in your own freedom so much, in your pride. You see?
Yeah, and just I think you retweeted something about like anarchist kinksters or whatever, and I don't know, it just tracked so well with my own kind of back in the day teenage blackpilling moment, I guess, when I was like switching back and forth.
Yeah, I was an anarchist.
Reading like fucking PUA blogs, like WordPress era PUA blogs, and like Jezebel.com and Vice and shit, and just trying to find out, hey, what's going on here. And I kind of had the deep sense that they were kind of communicating the same kind of nihilism, really. Even though they're seemingly opposed, right? And one is the enemy of the other, but really they were just the whole bleak premise of it was the same.
In essence, the fruits of them are the same.
Yeah, that's been like, you just showed me that kind of with all these streams and stuff that's been really enlightening, and it's made me get a lot of sort of confidence in what I really believe in and shit. I guess.
Good. I'm trying to build the faith and inspire people, get them all riled up.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
All right, man.
Yeah.
Are you satisfied with your
Hell
service?
yeah, and also big ups for shouting out Space Ghost Perp a little while ago. I love Space
Oh, I
Ghost.
love Space Ghost
Fuck
Perp,
yeah.
man. I love Space Ghost Perp. I pray for Space Ghost
Oh
Perp.
yeah.
I want him to put out some more amazing. Like he won't be he will be recognized as the genius that he is in time, in eternity.
yeah.
But he's suffering right now.
Yeah.
He's suffering. I think he's honestly punished on account of his pride, honestly, because he's very prideful. If you
Oh,
read,
yeah.
I followed him on many
Yep,
accounts,
same.
and I don't think he's like happy. He's very tortured.
Yeah.
But in that he has so many talents. He's so gifted.
Yeah, it's just
at what he
so
does.
much feeling in this stuff, man. Yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's beautiful stuff. I love that stuff. Well, one more happy customer service.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
I got named another, and we'll put him on. How can I help you, sir? Or madam?
Hello.
Howdy.
Hey, I just wanted to begin saying I appreciate everything you do. But I came to ask.
Thank you.
But I came to ask you, what do you see in the future for Christianity? Because my perception is that
victory in eternity.
But how would that go about? Do you see like a resurgence of pre-existing Christian sects or whatever you want to say, or do you see some?
I think in all ways. It's always happening in all planes. I see the victory of Christ in everything. I don't know the hour. No one knows the hour, but we're working towards it. I see it coming into being.
Through any particular church or?
No. Through man, through the church of man, through the fraternity of man, through the invisible church of all true believers who are only known to God.
Okay, cool. I think I understand what you mean. That's everything.
Yeah.
Thanks.
All right. Are you satisfied with your service, sir?
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you.
Have a good day.
Another satisfied customer. All right. Drujinik. How can I help you, sir?
Hey, Logo. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. What's up, man?
Yeah, thanks for hosting these spaces. I always learn a lot from you, even though I think we disagree on some more theological issues. But I wanted to get your opinion on like a thing in Hegel that I kind of struggle with, because I feel like when you're talking about Hegel and kind of Christian metaphysics or theology, it does seem like you place a lot of weight on intuitive knowledge over maybe like rational theology or something like that.
I wouldn't call it intuitive.
Oh, can you?
I'd call it creative.
Gotcha.
Like I like Haman. Have you read Haman? Like if you want to really understand Hegel, you have to read Haman, because Haman is the most important writer, I think, of that time. I think that he saw much further than everyone else at his time, because he completely ruthlessly destroyed this attempt to build a rational philosophy out of language, because language is the house of truth, the word, right? The word, and the word is not the same, is not the rational, the rationale, right? The analytics, like the kind of Descartesian two-dimensionality of this type of flattening of discourse is the cross upon which the truth is crucified. You see, the truth is beyond these rational contains. It breaks all of these crypts, as William Blake would call them, right?
Yeah, I'm
truth is beyond our. We have to have faith in it because it exceeds the grasp of our rational faculties.
Yeah, I know of Haman as a sort of critique, broadly a critique of the Enlightenment, and also I guess Kantianism. But I guess
really
what I'm getting at is
it's a critique of, it's like a real meta critique of reason. He called it the meta critique of reason.
Yeah, I guess I think I broadly agree with Haman there, but with Hegel, I feel like what you see in Hegel is this kind of like return to Enlightenment rationalism, albeit in a more higher sort of, I think he calls it like a more circular form, right? That's the idea of the Hegelian encyclopedia, as opposed to sort of the high Enlightenment encyclopedia. It's not just an accumulation of facts; it's sort of
he says that he exhausts that project, right? He says that project has already been exhausted, like this encyclopedia, right, of like the faculties of mind, etc. That these have already been revealed to us. And that history, its ultimate end, is revealed to us already, and that it can be known. So Hegel is saying, holding on to the possibility of wisdom that it is possible to achieve wisdom and understanding of your time by looking and studying the development in history to the moment that you find yourself in. You know, you can never understand it until it's past you entirely. So the owl of truth flies after in the morning, right? The morning after.
Yeah.
So you
I
can
just feel
never
like there,
know fully the truth of what you are living within immediately, but the truth in eternity, i.e., as it is revealed to us through history and time, is ultimately knowable.
yeah. I mean, this is what I find tough with Hegel, because I feel like he does demonstrate that knowledge is a circle of circles, but he calls it a system, right? He calls it a system of knowledge, which
A body of knowledge, yeah.
Yeah, I don't. There's something. I just feel like there's something Cartesian about the way he posits knowledge and absolute
Well,
spirit.
sure,
And
because the thing is that
yeah,
he's trying to use all of these weapons, you could say, in the analytic toolbox of the philosophers and rhetoricians, the sophists, really, of those days. He's trying to use all of these tools to destroy it.
yeah. How would you? Can I ask a sort of ancillary question on your interpretation of Hegel?
Sure.
How would you deal with this accusation that I've heard from more sort of traditional circles that Hegel is kind of a Gnostic?
Their
in a way?
definition of Gnosticism is just like pure fancy. It's like pure projection, because most of the time these traditionalists are the true Gnostics, right? They believe in the God of this world, right? So they call anyone who doesn't believe in the God of this world, i.e., that God is expressed in nature, the God of nature, i.e., Satan. They worship Satan, by the way. So they call anyone who doesn't worship Satan a Gnostic. They are the true. So they're actually closer to that type of Basilidian, Valentinian Gnostic that they're describing, but they're not self-conscious of that, even though they get their theology from these theosophists and left-hand path types of people, right? So they're projecting their own Gnosticism onto others. Their whole hermeneutic is nonsense. This is why these people hate me particularly so much, because they recognize me as a Gnostic, and they recognize themselves as worshipers of the God of this world, which also happens to be their own coffers. They all want to get a lot of money because they think that they are the spiritual elect and they deserve to be in the ruling class. That's what their politics is that they want themselves to have power so that they can extract wealth from the people who they consider to be unhuman. That's it. That's all that's the extent of their politics. So when they describe someone as a Gnostic, they're actually truly meaning it in their projection, the way that the word Gnostic was originally used, which was a synonym for Christian in the early church. It just meant he who had knowledge, he who had understanding, right? So the Gnostics and the Christians, they were the people who claimed to actually know the truth. They met him. They followed him on the road. They talked to him. They heard him speak.
Yeah, sorry, I should have clarified. I kind of don't mean the sort of theosophy set, which I completely agree with you that they are the real Gnostics.
Traditionalists
but
worship idols.
Right.
Traditionalists worship the Antichrist of whatever stripe.
Would you not admit that what Hegel is after, though, is a kind of I mean, he calls it absolute knowledge, right? It's a kind of knowledge that has no sort of presupposition, really. Hypoton, as Plato would call it, sort of the holy grail of philosophy. Would you? I don't know. Do you think that
Christ
there is
that?
Yeah.
The rose in the cross is what Hegel describes this object as, right? The rose in the cross.
Yeah.
What do you think he meant by that?
I mean, I think
he means Christ crucified.
Yeah. I mean, it goes back to what you're saying about how, the ascent of how the ascent of spirit and Christianity, basically, for Hegel is history, right? It's kind of imminent in that way. And the incarnation is the beginning point, as it were, of that kind of historical unfolding.
Yeah. Exactly. It's the only way you can understand Hegel. Like, a lot of people try to use Hegel, his gallery of armaments, right, for various purposes, right?
Yeah,
so
I would agree.
The same way people do it with the Bible, the same way they do it with anything. People try to make use of these things for their own purposes. They create a
Yeah.
lot of confusion, discord. That's why it's often just a waste of time to deal with. Like, you know, people are like, well, I have the true objective opinion of Marx or whatever. And it's like, that's not the point. It's the point is to grasp the essence, the spirit, the point, like the greater truth expressed within it. It's not just to like quibble over these analytical like debate. Like it's just literally a waste of time. The Bible says this as well. It's a useless time, wasteless time to argue over these trivialities, which actually trivia, they would fit in the quality of trivia in the medieval university.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think Hegel would also agree with you there. I mean,
Yeah, exactly.
I sort of see like both him and Marx. What you were saying about Marx earlier was really, really good too. I think they were both trying to give Christianity a sort of basis independent of the institutional church, right? Which they both
Yeah.
saw as corrupt.
Yeah.
I'd always be curious to see what Marx. I haven't read those early writings that you referenced, but I know that Hegel was at least more amenable to orthodoxy and
Oh, of course.
to the
I
Eastern
mean,
churches
but the
than
thing is
to
that
Rome, obviously.
a lot of Protestants were using the same arguments that the Orthodox had long ago in the Great Schism.
Yeah, yeah.
There's a lot of irony to all of this, I think. Like where Protestantism is actually closer in a lot of places to a certain orthodoxy, but there's like a dialectical component in the class war, like everywhere, such that you see, for instance, some of my ancestors were Cornish Catholics, right? Because they were Celtic. So the Celts held on to their Catholicism because it represented their people who were subjugated against the class that had subjugated them, right? So they held on to their Catholicism because they were occupied by Protestants, right? The settlers were Protestants, so they held on to theirs. There's a class meaning to it. But later on, right, after the Reformation, etc., a lot of the Protestants, the nonconformists and the dissidents, right, they hate the state church because the state church becomes corrupted, and they say this state church is rife with popery. And guess who agrees with them in an odd way? Because they're now in the same class position. These Celtic Catholics now are in the same position as these people. So you have a lot of Cornish people going over to where they offer religious freedom amongst the nonconformists, right? And then they end up over here in New England.
Yeah, that's funny. I mean, I feel like this dialectic, it's ironic, but it's also internal to Hegel, where you're right. Hegel, you know, his theology does point towards the sort of invisible church, as you often like to bring
he's
up.
the Rosicrucian.
But don't you think at the same time though, like when he talks about the sort of his kind of like Prussianism, as it were, if you're like a right wing Hegelian or whatever, and you would point to, you know,
They
the
just want to
Prussian state
reify
as
the exact
objective
state
spirit.
that he was in. But the thing is that the state at the time represented, again, in this sort of dialectical engagement with the empires of the time, it was a progressive step in history, right? The problem is that every time that happens, you get people who reify that thing as like the end of like, that was like the perfect moment or something. And we need only return to that exact mode. And that's a type of like idolatry, I think. Like, I don't think that's very Hegelian. Like a lot of the right Hegelians are like kind of, you know, a little off the rocker in that way.
Yeah, they would want something like a national, like whatever Lutheran church that expands with Prussian imperialism or something like that.
And if you took Hegel back from the past and you brought him there, he would not recognize these people, you know?
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's all I got. It was really interesting to hear your thoughts, and
are you a
thanks for doing
satisfied
these.
customer?
I am. Have a good one, Loga.
You too, man. All right, I've got Kmart. I don't think I've talked to you before. Maybe I have. Drummer/trucker. Cool. What can I do for you, Kmart? Kmart, you're up. You got to unmute yourself if you want to
I see. Sorry. Bruce.
Ask a service.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Is it hellish? I'm in a truck.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So I don't have much to add, but my wife and I recently just started going to an Orthodox church, and I grew up Protestant. And just generally, earlier in the conversation, someone brought up the God of President Bush. That kind of struck a chord with me. So growing up Protestant, I believe, but not too strongly, and was kind of always annoyed by the parapolitical end of church going and all, all the shit that is connected with it. But now that I'm older, I'm wanting to get back into church, and I think through just strange Twitter posting was like, well, let's check out Orthodoxy, and the formalism to it. I don't know. I feel like the Protestant church for me provided very little in the historical end of things, and just kind of focused too much on
This world.
yeah, and then I don't know. I'm rambling.
All right, man. Well, I'm happy if I inspired you in any way to do that. There was a time long ago when I was in a very deep state of despair that I thought I would just run away to a monastery, like an Orthodox monastery. I really was going to do it. I thought about it. I dreamed about it. But I think this is what I was supposed to do instead.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I'm glad you did.
All right, man.
But,
Well, are you
all right,
satisfied
yeah.
with your service?
Yep. All right.
I love to serve the drive time trucker proletarian people, provide a satisfactory service. Have I charged you for it? No, I have not. I've given it to you out of my good graces, sir. Have a good day. Have a blessed day.
You too.
All right. I'm going to do one more because I'm at 10% on my phone and I didn't intend to do that. I never intend to do these as long as I end up doing them, but I got this 1 star out of 5 person. We'll see. I haven't talked to them before, so I'm going to see what they want. What can I do for you, sir? You got to unmute yourself, sir, if you want like to request a service.
Sorry, I didn't know it muted me.
It's all right.
Okay. So I just got a question. I see you use the term a lot in Antichrist.
Yeah.
And so my question is, how do you believe in an Antichrist?
I see it everywhere. So I guess I kind of believe in it, but I kind of observe it. Like I experience its reality.
But I'm just going to be a little presumptuous here that, Christ is the truth. That's what we're talking about, the light and the way.
Yeah. So the Lord of lies, like the great lie, the great liar.
But I mean, if a person really believes that about the Christ, whether we're not talking about a spiritual entity or a historical figure or even just an idea, to put all that faith into something that we would call the Christ, to admit to something being called to even admit to being something called an Antichrist, isn't that kind of like heretical to say that something could be the anti of Christ?
No. So think of it this way. Actually, Christ, being the greatest good and the absolute truth, also made possible an evil that was impossible before Christ. Okay? So that would be the Antichrist, is the inversion of Christ.
Well, I lost my connection. I don't know what the hell's going on. Are you not
No,
on
you're
the Wi-Fi?
here. You're still here, dude. I hear you. Okay. I don't know. I think we accomplished. I hope he's satisfied. I don't know. If he comes back, we'll put him on real quick. I'll do this guy instead. We've got Christ Knight. Cool. What's up, dude? I like the Avi. We got the Cromwell laser eyes. I miss my friend whose name was like Tyro or something. He was a big Wyndham Lewis guy and he used to have basically the same avatar.
Oh, nice. Nice.
What can I do for you, man?
Yeah, I just want to ask you a question. So from what you know so far, like out of all like the churches and denomination, what do you think? Which church actually is aware of like what's going on with the class board?
There are individuals everywhere who are aware of what's going on. They're all over the place. You can find them anywhere. You can also find people who have no idea anywhere. I don't think there's any particular institution in that sense that is just like representing perfectly the church, the visible church or whatever. So I say I believe in the invisible church, And I look for the people everywhere in all of these various places who seem like they know what's going on or have some sort of truth that they can reveal to me. That's what I do. That's my policy.
Okay. But like, what would you say personally is one church, or at least, one church that is more consistent with, I guess, addressing the concerns and struggles of the proletariat?
Right now?
Yeah.
I mean, it's the invisible. The thing is that, like, I don't really believe in what those churches claim to be, right? Like, I think that they are like way stations, you might say, and that there are many good Christians who pass in and out of those things. And there are many Christians who've never set foot in them. They're just around. So where does the good come from? It comes from the invisible church. You can see them acting all around you.
Okay.
That's how I look at it. So I see it in some places, but I don't want to like reify some institution and say this thing is Christ's message on earth, right? Like, I'm not a Catholic in that sense. I don't have that kind of theology. I don't have that hermeneutic. A lot of people think I'm a heretic for this, but I'm just trying to stick to like the word.
I see. Okay. All right. Well, that's basically it. Thank you for answering my question. God bless.
Are you satisfied with your service, sir?
Yeah, definitely. 10 out of 10.
All right, another satisfied customer. All right, we got Starman back talking about the Antichrist.
Okay. So I missed the end of your explanation a minute ago, but it seems to me that the Antichrist seems to be like a Jewish concept. That.
What do you mean by that? How is that even real? It's a Christian concept. It's in the Bible.
I mean, the Bible is just some people's translations and words. You can't even read the Bible in an original tongue. So.
Yeah, you can. It's in Greek. You can go online to your Bible Hub right now. They have you They hand you all the philological tools to do a side-by-side reading with the Greek text. If you have any confusion over the terms, you can click. Well, you don't have to speak Greek. You can learn it. You can learn it. You're capable of learning what these words mean. Like, for instance, I often do this. I'll see a passage and I'll go, I want to see this in Greek. Or if it's in the Old Testament, I'll say, I want to look at this in Hebrew. And I look at it. I look at the side-by-side with the words. And if there's a word that looks interesting, or I go, I've seen it's been translated a bunch of times. What I'll do is I'll look up that word in other Greek texts, and I'll see how it's been translated from those, right? And I try to juxtapose those things together, and I try to see what that word might have meant.
Yeah, okay, so that's translation, and you're translating from an
but I can do that. You can translate.
Well.
You can have that power, right? Like, you could learn how to do that if you're so interested. It's not hidden from you. It's actually, you have all of the tools. You have the best tools available ever created by mankind to do this kind of research from wherever. You can do it on your phone. I do it on my phone all the time. You can do it literally anywhere.
Translation is one of the 5 chaos arts. I don't know if you know the 5, but I know the 5.
I don't know what sort of heresies and idolatries you speak of.
Translation,
chaos arts.
Translation.
I don't know anything about witchcraft.
Translation is a magic. Let's just say it like that. Translation. You just say
magic.
Yourself,
what is magic?
It's a
What's
power.
Magic?
Like you said, you just said I had a power. What's a power?
I said a gift.
I have the gift of translation. Magic.
Yes, God has given us the ability to translate. We have the ability not only to learn language, to speak language, to create language, but we can also translate in language into other languages. We can make a meta language, you could say, where we can translate these things to each other back and forth. And we can communicate things to each other without knowing each other's language.
We have to go back to the source of the word, because you're using the word as the source, but that's just some Greek. So when that might not even be the original source of the word. The Greek might not be the original, or the Hebrew. Those are just some people's words. So
okay, but they've been written down. They've been written down and written down and copied and passed down through the corridors of time to wind up where they are. And I can trace that passage with the greatest tools available to me and you. You can go home right now. You can go on your phone. You can trace like all of the Masoretic texts. You can look at the there's various versions. There's the Alexandrian Codex. There's a million versions of these things. You can compare these things yourself if you're so interested. Nothing's hidden from you.
Except the source, right? Why would I?
Well, you have to have faith in the source, because you can't touch Christ, right? Doubting Thomas. You have to have faith that there is a source text, that like this didn't just emerge ex nihilo. But maybe you're a nihilist who knows the chaos arts. I don't know.
If I don't know the source and I can only translate amongst translations, I mean,
that's life.
I'm lost in man's words.
That's the condition of your life.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's a very simple concept for somebody to be like, oh, to invent something called an antichrist. We can invent the anti of everything these days. That's basic intellectualism. Oh, I'm an anti-painter. I'm an anti,
Yeah, we
refrigerator.
create words using like these root things, right? Like, how old is the origin of the word anti to stand for the opposite of, right? You can trace
But
that
how can there
backwards.
be?
You can
How
see
can
the
there
word
be an
origins of it.
opposite of the? How can there be an opposite of the one pure truth? How can there be
Because
an
there would be
opposite
the
of
one
Christ?
most corrupt lie, which
Why
is the
would God?
denial of that
Why would
truth.
God allow? Why would God even allow that though? Would that like you say? It's like saying
Why
there's
would
an
a God?
opposite of God.
Why does God allow evil to happen? God doesn't allow it. I mean, he allows us to choose evil. We produce all
Evil
of
is
the
not
evil
the
in the world.
opposite of God, though. Evil is not the
Yeah, it
opposite.
is. Evil is the absence of the good. We create the absence of the good when we choose not the good. When we choose the bad, we create an absence of the good. We open up a hole of oblivion in the fabric of eternity.
Things happen perhaps in the absence, but the absence is not the opposite.
Yes, it is. There is something and nothing. There is everything and nothing. What is nothing? The absence of everything.
Then if God is everything and the opposite of everything is nothing, then there is no Antichrist, because that would be nothing. There is nothing. You
Well,
just said it
there is.
yourself.
People worship nothing. Nothing is also a presence, right?
But it doesn't. But what we're saying, it doesn't
Its
exist.
ultimate
So,
reality will be expunged, which is promised to us. We
so
know
what
that
you're
in
saying is people
eternity, it is nothing, and it will die a second death and be
they
forgotten
worship.
by all.
There's a difference between worshiping the nothing and admitting to the existence of the nothing.
Absolutely. There's a difference between worshiping the Antichrist and acknowledging the existence of the Antichrist.
Right. No, the Antichrist can't exist because there's nothing.
It
There's
does
only
exist.
God.
I acknowledge its existence. You deny its existence. Now,
If you,
a
then
further question.
you're
Is
creating
Christ
it
the
through your
truth?
acknowledgement.
Is Christ the truth? Yes or no?
Even by acknowledging the
You're an
Antichrist, you're
analytic.
basically
Is
you're
Christ
being
the
the
truth? You're
Antichrist.
wasting my time. Is Christ the truth? Yes or no?
Is the Antichrist not the truth?
Yes. The Antichrist is not the truth. Is Christ the truth? Yes or no?
What does that have to do with my question?
I'm asking you a question now, as a service to you, as a service to your soul. Is Christ the truth? Yes or no?
Christ is the flesh. Christ is just the man.
So Christ is not the truth.
Well, life is the truth. Life is more truth than even
Is
those
Christ
books or those
life?
old dead
Is
words.
Christ the way, the truth, and the life?
Why, yes, it is.
Okay, so then what is the absence of that? What is the absence of Christ?
But those are just words.
That's
I mean,
hell.
if we take
That's
away
hell,
those
isn't
words,
it?
no, but we have to transcend those words to find what's truly holy and what's truly godly, and it's not the
Transcend the
words.
word. Listen to yourself.
Yeah.
You want to transcend the word and find what is truly good? That's the Antichrist, my friend. You want to worship the Antichrist. You want to reach beyond Christ. He said it is finished, and you said, I want to go further.
Now, look, the Bible says in the beginning there was the Word. That's
Yes.
one word. That's only
No.
one
Yes,
word.
Christ
So that
is
means
the word.
all words have to be chopped and cut from that one word.
Christ is the word of God.
That's not a
That
big.
is
That's
what
not
he
a big
is.
enough word, though.
That's what he is.
But so,
do you deny that Christ is the word of God, the word of God, the word, the singular word of God?
Yeah, I don't know. How would I know that? How would I know that? How would I presume to know the singular
Well,
word
you could
of
have
God?
faith that that is the case, or you could deny it, or you could have
would
doubts
be me
about it, or you could be
that would be me
skeptical of
having
it.
faith in you telling me what
No,
God.
I mean, I know. I'm not
I
telling
see
you
that
anything.
printed
I'm
on every
asking
building.
you.
I could just be like, well, there
I'm
it is.
asking you. I'm not telling you to do this. You can choose otherwise. You can choose your own damnation if you want. Those are the terms laid out to you in the Bible. Okay? So, is Christ truth?
The only truth.
Yes.
I consider Christ to be life itself, the flesh,
the way,
the bread.
and the life, and the
Bread.
truth. Are all of these things unified in the person of Christ?
Now it's three things. Now the one word is three.
That's what he said. These are his words.
Oh, so now we have to talk about the anti-life, the anti-way, and the
Yes.
anti-light.
Yes. Do you see that around you? I do.
No.
You don't see that around you. You don't see the anti-life around you. The antinatalists are not around you.
What is anti-life? I see kids playing. I see some concrete. Is the concrete
What about the people who
anti-life?
say that too many are born?
Too many are born. They hate children. They want there to be less of them. What about those people? You don't see them? Are they active agents in this world?
I don't know. I mean,
You don't know any? You've never observed this? Do you see with your eyes?
Does it
I
matter?
see this everywhere.
Does it matter if there's people like that, though? I mean,
what do you mean it doesn't matter?
I think it matters more that there's people out here claiming that they got to hunt down something called an antichrist, because then they're going to put you in the bucket of antichrist and say you're the antichrist. And usually the only people I see saying that are Jews anyways.
Maybe they're antichrist. Maybe that's one of the visages of the antichrist.
But if we deny,
I don't want to crucify people. I want to free them. I want to free them. I want them to choose life. I want to convince them to choose life. But I know that they're free to choose otherwise.
Is the devil antichrist?
Of course.
But the devil is just one of God's creations.
Of course, so is the antichrist.
So God's not afraid of the devil.
No, because he knows we're going to win.
And nothing can beat the Christ, so there can't really be an opposite or opposition.
It's a seeming opposition, yeah. And people join up with it. They choose death.
Okay, there you go. So it's a seeming opposition. It's not real. It's not actually biblical.
It's not actually powerful. It's not actually powerful. It appears powerful in this world, but it's all doomed.
But when we talk about an antichrist, it sounds like we're talking about something that could kill Christ, but that's not possible.
No, we know that the antichrist can't kill Christ. We're told that in Revelations.
If you take the anti and the thing together, you end up with nothing. So why do we?
You're using like science. You're saying -1 and +1 makes 0, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about eternal contradictions. We're talking about paradoxes. We're talking about poetry. We're not talking about logical syllogisms. We're talking about revelational words, speech, scripture, poesy, prophecy. That's what we're talking about. You're saying that the Antichrist and the Christ, well, if they both exist, then there's nothing. Is that what you think? I don't know. Maybe you do. But the Antichrist is real. I see it all around me.
So if enough of the Antichrist covered the planet, would Christ be gone? What would happen?
Christ will win in eternity. We're promised that. We know that.
Then there can't be an Antichrist. There's no point.
No, there is. We know that the struggle actually does exist. We don't deny its existence. We say we deny its existence in eternity. In the end, in the last judgment, it is nothing. It goes to the oblivion of nothingness.
All struggle is the Antichrist. I mean, so the problem is
no. I'm not saying all struggle is the Antichrist. That makes no sense. I would never say such a thing.
Well, I mean, I just used your word. That was your word.
No, that's not what I said. I said the struggle is real.
We
engage in it.
Antichrist.
Yes. We're assailed by the Antichrist. We live in the empire of the Antichrist. It's all around you. The great lie rules. Mammon is God here.
It seems like giving a lot of power to this stuff
No.
to become Antichrist.
No, because we take all of its power away. We know that it is damned in eternity. It may seem powerful. It has the pretenses of power, but in the last judgment, it is powerless before the truth of Christ. That is what Christians believe.
Because to be the full anti of Christ, if Christ is everything, to be the full Antichrist is to be against everything. I mean, it's just against all things itself.
Yeah.
Right. So nobody can actually embody that. You can only
not
embody
imperfectly. Not perfectly, but they embody its spirit.
There is no perfect Antichrist, so we're in search of the perfect Antichrist.
No, we're not. We're in search of all of the imperfect Antichrist. We're in search for all of the imperfect. We are in search for the spirit of the Antichrist.
But it's played out through man, because the
Antichrist. Everything is played out through man,
including Christ.
Christ was a man,
but he ain't a man anymore. So is Christ still
the
played
Holy
out?
Spirit is with us always. Christ is with us always. God is with us always. In the imagination, in your heart, in your spirit, in your soul, always. Undeniably so, if you have faith.
But the Antichrist is not.
Yes, it is, because you see it. You don't not worship the Antichrist. You acknowledge its existence the way you acknowledge the existence of evil, while also acknowledging the ultimate non-existence of evil. This is Christian metaphysics. These two things are contradictory to you, but they are complementary to me. They are necessary complements.
But but you're just the one to talk to me about being analytical, but you're the one stuck in a dualism here. That's
That's not
my
a
problem.
dualism. It's not a dualism. The dualism is rectified. The dualism is balanced in eternity. We know the resolution of this duality, that
Oh, good.
seeming duality.
So the balance is we have to have the Antichrist.
It exists around us.
So we
do you deny
we
God's
get past
providence? Man created the Antichrist. God just told us that it was going to happen. He said, look, man are creating the Antichrist after Christ. This is a warning. Right? That's what the prophet said. That's what the disciples said.
I mean, then this sounds like this God does not sound very powerful.
What do you mean? He's all powerful. He gives us power. He allows us to choose to worship him by our own volition, or to worship the God of this world, who is the devil. That is what God gave us. He's all powerful, and he chooses not to enforce his law by force. He chooses to allow us to choose ourselves, because we are made in the image of God, and God is free in the same way. Now, you may not consider such a God to be noble. You might prefer that we were pets. You might prefer that we never came close to God as the image of God. You would have man be an animal in a zoo that is well taken care of.
No,
harm reduced.
I think that if God is all as powerful as you want him to be like that, then God loves the devil and God loves the Antichrist, because
he doesn't though. He doesn't. Man loves the devil and man loves the Antichrist, and God weeps. God weeps over his creation.
God is all powerful. Why would he even care? It should be like he should enjoy
because
that.
He believes he has faith in us, as we have faith in him.
It's the only thing it's literally the thing that animates you personally is the Antichrist. So God.
No, it's not. Christ is what motivates me. Christ is what motivates me, and by necessity, I am motivated against the Antichrist. It's a complementary fact. If one, then the other. I cannot do otherwise. One means the same as the other. We're just phrasing the same concept two ways. To be a follower of Christ is to be an enemy of the Antichrist by necessity.
So what we're saying then is that God is proud of you for fighting the Antichrist, but he doesn't love the Antichrist because he's not powerful enough to have love for all creation?
What do you mean? That is his form of love. He allows the Antichrist to...
I might have dropped out again. Oh, no. So God loves the Antichrist. God loves the devil. It gives purpose to life. I might be blocked. I think I lost my... Well, I'm a happy customer. I think I blocked out. I think I fell out of the conversation or something. I'll hit you up another time. Thanks. But am I still on? Oh my God.